God is love. It starts with love. The most important thing to know about God is that he loves you. And I had ambition and I had little stars in my eyes, but I also had a ton of self-doubt. Oh my gosh, there's so many directions we could take that. I know, but I have the letter.
Hi everyone, I'm Paolo. Okay, so today we have a fantastic episode because I am going to be talking with the co-anchor of the Today Show, the brilliant Savannah Guthrie. She has a new children's book out called Mostly What God Does Is Love You. Let me tell you, it is a beautiful picture book with a beautiful message. So, for the very first time, I'll see you guys with Savannah.
Spoonful of Paolo, here we go.
We're ready and you're ready. We can start,
All right,
Savannah.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh my God, Savannah, it is such an honor to finally interview you. You've been a dream guest. We love you. So just thank you for being on A Spoonful of Paolo. Just thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. The feeling is mutual.
Thank you. I want to congratulate you on such a beautiful children's book. Mostly What God Does Is Love You. What a beautiful message to come out right now during this time. And I think because this is released 1 year after you had released Mostly What God Does, which is another beautiful book you wrote. Savannah, I have to tell you, the illustrations, the message in this children's book is so meaningful and beautiful. What does it feel like that not just adults, but now little ones are going to be receiving and connecting with this beautiful message of love?
Oh, I'm so excited. And thank you for having me on. It's really fun to get to talk to you. I mean, when I wrote the first book, Mostly What God Does, it was obviously for adults and it's a bunch of essays and that kind of thing. You know, really, I thought about it as just a gentle call to be loved and then to love. And so when my editor came to me about a children's book, I thought, this is a message that's really so simple that kids could understand it, but that doesn't make it easy. And it's just every bit as profound. But I think that it really lends itself very well to a children's book and a children's message.
Yeah.
And I hope actually that this notion that at any given time, you're wondering where God is or what he's up to, that mostly what he's doing is loving you.
Ugh.
That's a message that kids really need to hear. And so do the tired moms and dads who are reading this book to them at night.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that it's a gentle kiss goodnight and a gentle embrace and a way to have perspective. And perspective's so important and really hard to come by sometimes. So those are my hopes and dreams for this book.
Savannah, when I received the book and I was reading it, I'm telling you, there was one message that really stood out for me. When you wrote, you said, here you are, just exactly where you should be, exactly who you meant to be. I live by those words. And what was so special about when I had received this book is that there are two beautiful bluebirds and you have the rainbow. And, my mom passed away 3 years ago and my mom's sign to me are bluebirds. So when I got to that page and I saw the rainbow and the bluebirds, it really touched me with that beautiful message that I live by those words. So I'm like, it's not even just little ones, but it's even adults. When you're reading this to your kids at night, you're going to connect with it because it's just so moving and touching and truthful. And you did such an amazing job in writing it. I'm so proud of you. Okay.
Oh, I'm practically in tears thinking about that, because I feel like when things like that happen, Paolo, I look at it as like a God wink.
Yeah.
Sometimes God speaks to us, and I write about this a lot in my book of essays. God speaks our language, not English. He speaks Paolo. He speaks Savannah, and so I think it's pretty beautiful that this image that would mean something to you finds its way in your hands. And I makes me happy.
I connected with it, even with Mostly What God Does, because me being gay, growing up in a Catholic family, there were so many voices, not necessarily from my parents and siblings, but it was just from the relatives and some friends just saying, God can't love you because you're this, or, you're going to go to hell, all that stuff. But I grew up with parents and siblings saying that God does love you. God wants you to be your authentic self. And both your books, when I read them, even the one when I read it last year, it just reminded me, really, God just wants you to be you. Be your authentic self. Be happy. Do good. And your message is just so meaningful. And like I said, it's just at a beautiful time that it comes out. The children's book is perfect. So I applaud you, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think that all of us who grew up in the faith, there can be good parts about it and bad parts about it, in the sense of, like, a lot of us I certainly write a lot about the fear that I had, or always thinking I was in trouble with God, or that God was somehow unhappy with me, and some cosmic divine punishment was always just right around the corner. And that this big revelation I had when I read these words, mostly what God does, is a retranslation of a verse in a version of the Bible called The Message.
Yep.
But it just made me, it was like a fundamental reordering. It's not like God has no morality, or there's no, that's fine, and you can have those discussions. God is love. It starts with love. The most important thing to know about God is that he loves you, and everything else flows from that. And if my hope is that if we could all receive that and really let it impact and kind of penetrate our hearts and souls, everything would be different. Everything would be different for us, how we relate to people, how we relate to each other, and yes, even how we relate to how we behave in the world. If you're filled with love, everyone knows that you learn more, and you're more likely to do the things you should and be your best self when you start from that place of love and acceptance. And I think this isn't something I made up. This isn't some, like, everything's great. It's very much rooted in doctrine, and I feel really strongly that it's just like, sometimes the emphasis is wrong, and reminding ourselves that mostly what God does is love us is really the starting point, the jumping off.
Amen. When I read this a few times last year, one part of the book that I connected with was with grief. As I said, my mom passed away 3 years ago, and I know for you in 1988, you lost your father. You were 16. You were a junior in high school, and he passed away from a heart attack. But there's something you said a few years ago that I literally has stuck with me, and I wrote this down when you had said this in an interview, and you said, "You have a cup of grief now. It's like a cup of water. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life emptying this cup." So I just wanted to ask you, where are you today with emptying that cup of grief?
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe that stuck with you, because I do. That's something I thought since I was a little girl who lost her dad. Well, my cup still has some tears in it, and part of my belief is that, we'll always carry a cup, and the cup will never be empty until we draw our last breath. And I hope and believe are reunited again. And so there will be no tears. There will be no tears left to cry. And that's my belief. That's my hope. Do I know it? Certainly no, but that's my hope. And so I think sometimes what's in your cup comes out in buckets, it comes out in sobs, it comes out in despair, it comes out in anguish. And sometimes you're just carrying your cup, and sometimes it's hard to access. It's hard to let those tears go. But whatever it is, it's always with you. It's a reshaping of you. But I also think it's part of what makes this beautiful. And so I definitely feel that way. Sometimes I watch a lot of Anderson Cooper, and he's been doing this incredible podcast about grief, and
so powerful
and very thought-provoking. Yes, and really thought-provoking, because I think there are also ways in which I have a lot of tears left in my cup. Because when you're young and it's the 80s and you just are trying to go on with your life, you're like, you don't know how to grieve, you don't know, and you just go through the motions. And so I think Anderson talks a lot about not accessing grief until much, much later. He had many traumas as a young boy himself, and only in these later years, in his 50s, has he been able to contend with that. And I think that goes with the metaphor. It's like the cup of grief. It's okay. It's waiting for you.
100%.
And when you're ready to start to spill some of it out, it will be there for you, and it'll be okay.
Oh, thank you for that. I think it's so important that we honor our loved ones when they pass away. I try to do that. It's been 3 years, but I do it with my mom every year for her birthday, Mother's Day, Easter Sunday. You do that as well. It's been about 37 years, and I love that you still honor your father, because before that book, Mostly What God Does, came out, you and your friend Drew Barrymore went out to get tattoos, and you got a special tattoo because on your arm it says "All My Love," and it's an exact copy of your dad's writing. I think it's so beautiful, and I know our loved ones are always around us. Anderson Cooper talks about that. You do as well. But how proud would your dad be that 37 years later, you're still honoring your dad in such a magical way?
Well, I don't know if my dad would approve of me getting a tattoo. He was an old-fashioned guy, but I think that he would be really touched and probably a little bit amazed that how much he still means to all of us, my mom, my brother, my sister. And, in so many ways, it's like we're still a family of five. His presence is still with us. His dynamic is still with us. And, I named my son Charlie, and I always wanted to, because I always wanted to remember him and make him in the conversation. So we talk about Grandpa Charlie, who my kids never got to meet, but they know about him, and his birthday was on Christmas Day. So I always remember as a little kid, you're like so into Christmas. And at the end of the day, oh, Daddy, happy birthday, sorry, And so I always think of him on Christmas night and tell my kids, remember, can you imagine Grandpa Charlie's birthday was on Christmas Day? And they're like, oh man, I bet nobody ever gave him they probably got like a combo present. I'm like, yeah, probably. It's just, those are the things.
That's what your sister would say. You guys were a family of six because don't forget God was the sixth member of your family. So I remember reading that in the book.
Yes.
I have to say that you've worked hard your entire life. I mean, you started working at 14 years old at a Greek diner back in your home in Tucson, Arizona. You always wanted to get in local news. You did that for 5.5 to 6 years. You covered a lot of legal issues in courts, and it was during that time where O.J. Simpson trial was happening. Court TV was really big, so you found an interest in law. So then I know one day you get a letter from Georgetown Law saying that the application deadline has passed, but they were going to extend it for you. What happened after that? Like, did you apply then, even though the deadline had passed and they were going to extend it for you?
Yes, this is like one of the craziest stories, and it's still crazy when I think about it. But I had taken the law school entrance exam. I was working in local news, and I thought, well, I'll just take the exam, but I'll let I'm not going to apply right now. I still have this TV job, and I don't even know if I want to go to law school. And then it was just this moment in time. I just had a horrible, sad breakup with my silly boyfriend at the time, and I was devastated. And all of a sudden, this letter comes in the mail from Georgetown Law. I'm this kid in Tucson, Arizona, 25, 26 years old. And it says, we invite you to apply. And so I just felt like in that moment, like I almost heard the angels like, ah. It was like, this is the door. It has been presented to you. Just walk through it. I mean, I hadn't applied to Georgetown. I still to this day don't know how they had my address, how they knew to write me. I ended up going to Georgia. I applied. Lo and behold, it's the only place I applied to. I got in, and then and then I was like, oh my gosh, should I go? Should I not go? And I decided to go, even though I still had a contract at my local station. But I was like, I think I'm supposed to just walk forward. When something presents itself, sometimes you just have to say, I'm not going to ask any more questions. I'm just going to follow. And so I did it. But I even met I still know him. He's still there, the admissions director at Georgetown. And I'm like, why did you guys send me that letter? And, for a lot of years, he was like, I really don't know what you're talking about. What letter? And I know, but I have the letter. So it's just one of those amazing things where
it was just meant to be. It was meant to be, because then in 2008, you became an NBC correspondent for the White House. And I know that you've said till today, that to this day, this was the most challenging assignment that I've ever had, that the stress was killing you. And you were trying to find a way to go tell your boss, like, maybe you can be let go from this assignment and do other things. But there was this fear that you were scared to go ask him. And your story reminded me of Hoda, because when I interviewed Hoda, she told me that, when she heard about the fourth hour of the Today Show, she wanted to go into that building up to the 52nd floor. And while she was in the elevator, she said 4 words: you can't scare me. I think both of you two are just so amazing. For you, Savannah, what was it to not let the fear kick in and to go ask for what you want and what you don't want? Was that your faith? Was that something else?
I think it's funny. I wish I had could say I was so brave. I really wasn't. I mean, for months and months, I agonized about this. I could not work up the courage to just tell my boss at the time here at NBC, I know it's amazing that I'm at the White House and you offer, and I'm so lucky. I barely had worked there, 6 months when they gave me this incredible opportunity. But I also knew that it was too much for me, and I just was totally overwhelmed by it, and I was so afraid to say, I think I want to do something else. I thought he would fire me. I thought he'd be like, well, I appreciate that, but this is the job I hired you for, so
Mm.
good luck. And I was encouraged by somebody here at NBC. She said, you just have to go in there and tell him, like, you just have to.
Wow.
And I did finally, and I'll never forget. He said, um, okay. Well, I have to say, I wished I would thought and hoped that you'd stay,
Mm.
through the first term and that you want to stay longer. And then I'm like holding my breath, like, okay. And so this is where it all ends for you, Savannah. And then he said, I guess we're just going to have to find something different for you.
God.
And I mean, it was incredible. Like, okay, wait. So you still see value in me. You're willing to enter this conversation. And that's how we came up with, okay, what if I go back to my legal roots? I'll be the legal correspondent. And then this job came up at the 9 o'clock hour at the Today Show. And so they brought me up to New York. And it was like so far exceeded what I could have even hoped for myself. I
Oh,
mean, I thought I was going to get fired.
I know, but you
And instead, I
didn't.
got my dream job.
I know, but I
I
love
mean,
that. I love that you took that courage and you did go ask him because, like, you started on the Today Show when you were, like, I think 39 years old. Since then, you married Michael, your beautiful husband. You guys are going to be celebrating your 11th wedding anniversary in March. You have two beautiful children, like you said, Charlie, named after your father, and then Vale. I just wonder that girl who was getting into local news, could she ever have visioned where you would be today, not just in your career, Savannah, but also in with your family?
all of it. I mean, I mean, what a blessing to get to say that your dreams came true
Oh,
in every way. And honestly, there's this incredible verse in the Bible and scripture, and I will kind of hesitate to say it because I don't think always
mm,
things, things worked out, so therefore it was God's plan or something. But I do love this verse. It says God is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. And I just love how that's put, because the truth is this kind of so far exceeds my hopes for myself.
mm,
I had ambition and I had little stars in my eyes, but I also had a ton of self-doubt and fear, far more than I had courage or bravery. But somehow I kind of just kept slogging along. And um, sometimes things work out for me, like if I had met someone I thought was the man of my dreams in my 20s, I would have probably never gone to law school. I probably would have
right.
never moved out of my hometown. I wouldn't have done any of these career things. And that would have been okay because that would have been a different life. But the point is like, that's where I feel like fate just kind of comes into it, where it's like you kind of have to trust that I trust that there's something greater at work, and somehow this beautiful and mysterious alchemy of moving pieces into place that over the course of time somehow work in the direction of good. And, it's easy for me to say as I sit here today in this beautiful office at 30 Rock and working in my dream job, and I got to have my babies, and I got to meet a wonderful man. And so, yes, I mean that. But what I also mean is that all my ups and downs and seasons, and I mean not days or months, but like weeks, years of distance from God and feeling, if not interested, sometimes heartbroken and disappointed with God, that things working out, I mean, in the direction of closeness to God, in the
Wow.
direction of that connection. And that is what makes everything meaningful. You can have all the things,
Yeah.
even the family and the job you love and all that. It's like what fulfills you and what completes you and your purpose is, I think, moving in that general direction toward God and finding out that He's been moving in your direction.
Oh,
He actually got there first. And I think that's really like that's the story of my dreams coming true,
oh.
is figuring that out. And that's a lifelong journey.
It is a lifelong journey, but you did it. Oh my God, what an inspiration you are. I want to end just by talking about your mom, Nancy. I think she just celebrated her 83rd birthday. Such a
Yes.
beautiful soul. I remember that you would say that you describe her as a truth teller because in your 30s, she would tell you that you're going to have kids, and obviously you did that in your 40s. What would you say is the greatest lesson that your mom has taught you that you now are going to pass on to your children?
I think it's not a lesson like you put on a bumper sticker or something. I think my mom, what I learned from my mom and still learn from her is I always say she's noble. She has deep integrity and character, and the way that she's a truth teller, sometimes you don't necessarily want to hear that truth, but she's credibility, and I want to have credibility with my kids so that I'm honest with them in an appropriate way so they know that they can believe me. And that way, when I tell them, I know that you are special. I know that you are here for a reason. I know that God loves you, that they believe me. And that's how, when you say that, when I said my mom was a truth teller, I was in despair for years and years and years thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to meet anyone. I'm never going to have my kids. Or what am I doing? Oh my gosh, I went to law school. Was that a mistake? All the different things I went through. For her to just be like a rock solid believer. Well, honey, I know that it's going to work out. Like those aren't idle words for her. Because she has credibility and integrity. And I hope that I could do that for my kids, because when she would give me that vote of confidence, it gave me a foundation, and a foundation to do hopefully those brave things from time to time.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that when you got your first local news job, I think you went from Arizona to Montana, you packed your car, it was a 2-day drive. Your mom, I think, went to Walmart, got you some dishes and sheets and all that stuff, and she was with you in the car.
Yes.
I think that is just unconditional love, because she's supporting you. You have this time with her. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And so you are definitely passing that all on to your children. So yeah, really.
Oh, it's so funny about that. I can still see us at that Walmart, and I didn't have any money and she didn't really either. And I just remember I'm sure the bill was 102, but I don't know what it was. And I was like, oh, and she paid it. And I was like, wow, mom, thank you. And she said, well, I always wanted to set you up in your first apartment, and I just really remember that. And I was out of college, I lived at home for college.
Yeah.
So for her to say, I always wanted to set you up. I always wanted to let you go.
Wow.
And set you free. And I wanted you to go chase your dreams. I mean, that is the greatest act that a mother can do. And I hope that I'm as courageous as she was, to let her kids go and say, go ahead, go for it. I believe in you, and home will always be here for you.
Oh, amen. Finish a sentence. Mostly what Savannah does is.
Oh my gosh, there's so many directions we could take that. The first thing I thought was mostly what Savannah does is drink coffee. Mostly what Savannah does is need a nap. No, mostly what Savannah does is say thank you and count her blessings.
Oh my God, I love that so much. Oh, Savannah, so what I did, okay, so I'm gonna end with this. Last year when your book came out, we went to the bookstore and we bought 25 copies of your book, Mostly What God Does, because I loved your essays. I loved reading it so much. So we went, and I've had these books here until we can show them to you. So what we're gonna do after, when this interview is done, we are gonna go donate your books to Books for Cause, who runs Chicago's first free bookstore. They have given out over 25,000 books in an effort to increase literacy levels in underserved areas where access to books is limited. And they also have worked to build over 120 libraries across 18 countries in Africa. So some of them are gonna have your books, and I can't wait for them to read the message. And I'm also gonna buy a couple of your new children's book as well and put that in there. So I'm gonna be donating them because I really want your message that God really does love you for everyone out there, because it's just, it's beautiful. So that's what we want to do for you, okay?
Thank you so much. That is amazing. What an awesome organization. I'm going to send them some books too. I'm getting in that you inspired me, Paolo. I'm sending some too.
Oh my God, Savannah. Oh my God, I have to tell you, I love watching you in the morning. It's just so surreal because I watched you this morning and now here you are talking with me. I think for what you stand for, you bring so much excellence into this world. You're such a hard worker. You inspire me as a host, and watching you every morning, I have so much respect for you, and your parents did such a wonderful job in raising you. That's why I know you and your husband are raising your kids amazingly beautifully. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking this time, because I know your schedule's so busy, but this means so much to me. Someone who's a big dreamer, who grew up in an Italian family, I always knew that something big was out there. So I am so grateful and blessed to be here with you, because it's just such an honor, and I love you so much. I really do, okay?
Well, you have just a contagiously joyful personality. It has been so fun to spend this time with you. Thanks for being so generous. And you're also a great interviewer. I could see that you really did your homework.
Oh, thank you.
So one interviewer to another, respect.
Thank you, thank you. Every time we come to New York, there's this Greek Mediterranean restaurant that you put it in your story 2 years ago. We go to it all the time when my husband comes to New York. I forgot the name of it.
Shuka?
Shuka, that's the one. Shuka, yeah.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I'm obsessed too, because every time you posted it. I only saw one time you posted in your story, and I took a snapshot. So I told Patrick, now when I think we're interviewing someone from The View. We've been there so many times to New York that we go there all the time, and every time we sit there, I always think of you because it's so good. So I just wanted to say thank you for the recommendation. Okay.
The best. One of these days we're gonna see each other there.
Okay,
I love
that's
it. It's
fine.
my fave.
And then I'll treat you to dinner or lunch, and I'll pay for your bill then. Okay. All right.
I got right back at you.
Thank you, Savannah. Have a beautiful day. Congratulations, everyone. This book is out today. Because this will be out on the day that we release the interview. And I'm just so proud of you, Savannah. So everyone get out there, buy this book. And mostly what God does is love you. I love that, okay? Thank you. Thank you, Savannah. And have a wonderful day, okay?
You too.
Say bye,
and bye,
Patrick.
Patrick. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was really fun.
Thank you,
Thank
Savannah.
you.
You're amazing.
You're
Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm visiting at the New York.
Okay.
Come see the Today Show next time you guys come.
Okay, we will. I promise you. Thank you, Savannah.
Now you know what.
Okay, bye, everyone. Bye, Sarah.